Welcome back to another edition of Value My Vote 2011 One-on-One with the candidates. And we're joined today by a councilwoman from the 8th District, the incumbent, Ms. Helen Holton. How are you doing?
I'm great. How about you, Hassan?
I'm just right. You're looking very lively today. That's
It's
how we get.
summertime.
Absolutely. It is hot.
Yes,
I'm
it
telling you.
is.
So I want to thank you for taking time out from campaigning to come here and talk to the voters about your candidacy and why you're running for another term as city council. You've been in the council for how long now? About 12?
This is my 16th year.
16 years, okay. And so why are you running for another 4 years, and what do you see as the biggest issues facing Baltimore right now?
I'm running for another 4 years because, in case you hadn't noticed, we are in the worst recession, depression as some might say. The economy is very unstable, and it's in times like this that experience matters most. Experience, leadership, the ability to have built relationships over the years to be able to get things done. And I take pride in knowing the things that I've helped to accomplish in the 8th District. About 5 years ago, we opened up the first newly constructed recreation center in the 8th District that the city had built in more than 30 years. And this summer, we're going to open up a gymnasium to accompany that rec center, which was a part of the original plans that lack of funding caused them to stop with just the rec center. And I was able to working with the administration, then the O'Malley administration, secure an additional $1.3 million to get that gymnasium built. I was just out there this past Saturday for a family day that the community was having and listened to people say, you know what, this is what we need. This is what our children need. Someplace to go year-round where they can have programming and a safe place to be. And that's just one of the things. Edmondson Village has healthy neighborhoods, and I know you're aware of the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative, that I was able to secure healthy neighborhoods in Edmondson Village without going through the normal competitive channels process, but imploring upon the administration to understand the need for it. And this year, Healthy Neighborhoods was not funded. But once again, in terms of the budget and getting things done, I was able to secure the funding needed to have Healthy Neighborhoods continue. Recreation. Some recreation centers closed around the city, not one in the 8th District, because I went to the administration and impressed upon them the need that every recreation center in the 8th District needed to remain open as a viable resource, not just for young people, but for seniors. At the Edgewood Lyndhurst Recreation Center, we have 2 senior programs running, so 4 days a week you have seniors in that building doing something together. And Mary Rodman has a seniors program running every Thursday. So our recreation centers are important. When you ask me about the issues, the number one issue right now is jobs. Jobs with security and livable wages and affordable benefits. And I put that as one because just to have a job is not enough if you don't have living wages and if you don't have affordable health care. You're in no better position than not having a job almost. The other issue would be affordable housing. Affordable housing. We need it bad. Looking at the Vacancy to Values program, looking at other things, we need to do more than what we're doing. And so looking at what the Board of Realtors are trying to do, looking at what housing's trying to do, I was very attentive to the land bank concept, but part of my concern was taking those properties and putting them in an entity where the city would lose control, and then who knows what would have happened to those properties. So the jury's still out on what Vacancy to Values will do, but it is moving forward in a direction that says we must address affordable housing, and let's take a look at the stock that's in this city that's not viable, that's not productive, that's helping to bring neighborhoods down instead of bring them up. If there were a third issue, I would say it's education. And I probably should have said that's right at the top, because what is the saying used to be, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. At the same token, education is power. It's something that no one can take away from you, and in many respects we're failing our children in public education. And yes, you hear everything about the great strides we're making, but my greatest concern is about the zoned public schools. Those schools where children walk to, that if you live in that zone, that's the school you're supposed to go to. Different from these transformation schools and magnet schools and all the sexy names and charter schools where children have choice and parents have choice for their children. I'm talking about the basic zone school, that if you don't have a family structure or parents that are going to be focused on what your needs are as a child and advocating in that school, being active and participative in the PTA, who's watching out for those kids and their education?
Well, you touched on a whole lot, and you kind of took a lot of stuff out because I'm a big fan of the land bank, so I was definitely going to see where you were, but you explained that because vacant to values hasn't proven itself. And so some of the economists that I've talked to said the land bank was probably the best
I am a
model
fan
that
of
they
land
see.
bank. Don't get me wrong. Under Mayor Dixon's administration, I went to study land banks, and if constructed properly, they do work. My concern is if constructed properly, leveraging what we can do on Wall Street with the values of those properties, even though they're vacant, they still have value. But in a depressed economy, the opportunities that were there before we got into this housing slump are not as great as they could have been. And so, you know, I became a convert of land bank if done properly, and I saw examples of it being done properly. Vacancy to values, it's not been a year since it's been launched. And as I said, I'm holding my breath to see what it's going to do. But at least we're moving forward in a direction that says we must do something.
Absolutely. I'm not a fan of, you put so much time, energy, and money and brains into the operation of the land bank. As you know, you had the Blue Ribbon Commission and everything else, and then you just stop, hold, all that's to the rest, and we just, like you said, hold our breath on a new initiative that nobody really knows.
Let me share this about land bank. Baltimore City unilaterally could not put a land bank program in place without state legislation. And so there again, if the state decides we don't want to give you that, then we could not make a land bank happen in a way that would be most beneficial to Baltimore. Vacant to values, we can, it's within our purview. And so as I said, the pace might be slower, but a lot of things are slower now given the economy. Just today I'm looking at where the Republicans are pressing to not allow this country to move forward financially, and that's something that can't be ignored. So I'm glad that over my tenure in the council, I've had the ability to build strong relationships and coalitions with our state and federal representatives, as well as my counterparts around the country, to look at what may be happening in another jurisdiction that can come to Baltimore. Outcome budgeting, we have it today because I learned about it at a conference of government officials, that I was able to come to the Department of Finance and say, you know what, this is a way that we need to empower the people to understand they have a greater stake in the budgeting process of what happens, and to understand the tough decisions that we're faced with when we get a budget and there's not enough money to go around for the need.
Now, speaking, you were a former chair of the Taxation and Finance Committee, so you get the economics of the budget. And I say this to every candidate, incumbent or otherwise, because it's a big problem with me. Baltimore City has a big disparity in 15% of education going to education, where 40 to 45% goes to public safety after supplementary budget at the end of the year. But most other jurisdictions, Montgomery, Prince George's, and other, go about 40, 45% in the opposite direction for education. And I know we have different needs than other jurisdictions in terms of crime and everything else. But when can we start seeing the turnaround of education getting more funding, that youth work's not just being for the summer, but being full-time for young people? When do we start seeing that from the local government?
Well, one of the things, this past year I've spent a lot of time looking at opportunities for young people, and not just in the way of jobs, but education, juvenile justice, a lot of things. And it's very disturbing to me that there are benefits afforded to young people that spend time in the detention center that aren't available for young people that have not done something wrong to end up in detention. And so that is a major concern of mine. And as I said to people, we have to reach a point where we draw a line in the sand. It doesn't have to be dramatic all at once, but we have to draw a line in the sand and say, we're not putting more money in the police department, we're putting more money into intervention, into after-school programming, into those things that are going to begin to turn the tide with what happens with our young people, where and how they get to spend that time. The reality is this: gone are the days when the average household has 2 parents in the household, where when kids get out of school, mom is home baking cookies. You know what? That's called old movies in black and white. It's not the reality today in the 21st century. And so we need to shift to begin to address the reality that our school days should be longer, our school weeks should be longer, our school year should be structured differently than what it is. Just like as adults, we get up and go to work every day, children need to understand you got to get up and go somewhere every day. What is lost in education between June and September can be replaced if we restructure the school year. Maybe we should go year round and have 2-week increments of vacation or time off or whatever you call it. It supports the rising costs of childcare because parents have to work. 3 months that you have to figure out what am I going to do with little Johnny while I have to go to work every day is very expensive, even after school care. So we need to break the molds of yesterday that are not working well for us today.
Absolutely. How can those who are watching, the voters, get more information on you, your candidacy, and get involved in your campaign?
Well, they can email me at Citizens for Helen Holton. Yes, it's long, but it's all spelled out. Citizens with an S, for, written out F-O-R, Helen, H-E-L-E-N, Holton, H-O-L-T-O-N, @gmail.com. Or you can phone me at 443-869-5949. That's 443-869-5949. And we welcome the opportunity for citizens to get involved in the process because at the end of the day, everything that I do is about the people that I represent.
Well, thank you so much for coming out to represent to those people and talking with the Value My Vote to the voters one-on-one with me. And we thank you so much, and we wish you all the best in your run for re-election.
Thank you.
And we'll be back with more Value My Vote right after this.